Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. This time I wanted to do a short commentary, kind of a follow-up on a video that I posted previously. Excuse me, I got a bit of a cough and a cold that I'm battling today, so you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. But the topic is how can Riot improve community perception of supports? I did a video on this earlier. I think I focused mostly on champion design and just other kind of general basic game mechanics on what Riot can do to improve that. And I think I did focus a little more on champion design. And my idea there is that if you consider, like, I think I wrote down this in a comment that I had to someone that I want to expound upon a little bit further. So if you think about, like, the assassin role, I think that it's one of the funnest roles to play. Play a champion like Zed. Zed is a fantastically designed champ. He has very, very good design for his assassin, all the way from his lore to his gameplay to his power level. I mean, he's just a very, very well-designed champion, in my opinion. He really nails that niche in terms of a single target assassin with his ultimate, and it's very rewarding to play him if you land a really well-timed, if you go in right at the correct moment on the AD carry and you get your ult off and you get your full combo off in a split second. You even use your active from Blade of the Ruined King, and you get your ignite off, and you kind of fade away and you get the kill during the pop of your ultimate. That is a very rewarding and fun gameplay mechanic. Like I said, a very well-designed champion. Compare that to playing Soraka. I've played Soraka before. I've even played games with Soraka where I've had a lot of fun. But, you pretty much sit in lane, you spam mana and health on your AD carry so they can just constantly use their abilities to push the lane and put pressure on the enemies. Keep them topped off, and you basically guarantee that your AD carry is not going to lose lane. And maybe, if you're going to have an epic Soraka moment, I would say it's like, you're watching cross maps, your top laner's getting ganked, and you get a perfectly timed ultimate off to save their life as they whisk away with a sliver of health. That's an epic Soraka moment. But if you compare those two, that epic Zed moment, where you get that fadeaway pop kill, versus the epic Soraka moment, I think that there is a huge disparity there in terms of, and maybe Soraka's a bad example because I think she's a little bit underpowered and she's, in general, not the best designed champion. There certainly are poorly designed assassins as well. I would think like Poppy comes to mind. But, maybe let's take another champion like Sona. Sona is more relying on her auras, and she's kind of doesn't really have any skill shots, I guess, other than her ultimate. Landing a really good 5-man crescendo is very rewarding, but it doesn't necessarily have the same sort of appeal as playing Zed. I guess I'm just kind of inferring and assuming the community perception. Well, I think the real kicker is that I can think of like Thresh. Thresh, I think, is a really well-designed champ. He's got great, fantastic kit, gameplay. Everything works together very seamlessly. A very well-designed support, very powerful, all this good stuff. Well, there's only one Thresh, and I can't really think of a lot of other supports. I think Nami was another recent support. Zyra wasn't even designed to be a support, but she's been played in that role. Maybe that's kind of a kicker as to the problem that, it was one of the most popular supports in the LCS has been Zyra, and she wasn't even designed to be a support. She was designed to be a mid laner, a mid lane mage. But there just isn't enough diversity. So it isn't so much that Riot doesn't know what to do in terms of how to make a good support champion. It's that there just simply aren't enough. They need to release more supports. I really think that would benefit them greatly. You can see we're actually totally whiffing on this gank. Sorry there, Jarvan. But just releasing more supports, I think, would be huge. And when you release a new champion, you kind of reinvigorate that role, or that, like when Lucian and Jinx are being re-released, I think AD carry is going to have a huge surge in popularity. A lot of people start playing AD carry again, and they kind of remember why that role is fun. Well, there haven't really been that many supports. Why isn't Riot making and releasing more supports? So that's kind of one element of this that I want to talk about, is just sheer volume of champions released. Why aren't there more supports being released? Why aren't there more champions that Riot has released that can really spice up the support role? And the next thing that I really want to talk about, and this is kind of where I spend the focus of my commentary. That first part was kind of in response to a comment that I got on that previous video, but this is really something that I wanted to flesh out. And this is something that I read in it was a Red post on the Riot forums, about how Riot is looking to change gold income in Season 4, specifically for junglers and supports. Junglers and supports are typically the roles that have the least gold income, and then they're expected to make the most impact without items. So if you think about good junglers, like a Jarvan, Lee Sin, they're effective without really having very many items. So what can Riot do to help change this? Well, I kind of talked about this a little bit, but what if Riot really did some fun and interesting things with runes and masteries? What if they, instead of just having supports rely on gold per 10, a lot of supports will run gold per 10 runes and masteries in the utility tree. What if they changed that? And what if they instead did something where instead of relying on gold per 10, if you spec into the utility tree, you gain... I don't even know exactly how they would do it, but what if they changed runes and masteries? So instead of trying to compete with the big dogs who are getting all this farm to get items, what if you had a different way to gain a whole set of items that was more, keenly tuned to your role? I'm not even sure exactly how they could do this, but I'm sure that there's got to be some way that they can change gold and itemization so that it's a lot more fun to play support. Because I think one of the main reasons why support is uninteresting is because you aren't really receiving any gold. And if you aren't receiving any gold, you don't really feel powerful. I think one of the more fun and enjoyable things that I have in League of Legends is buying really powerful items. When you're an AD carry and you finish your Infinity Edge, you feel really strong. Like I usually just type it in chat just because I feel like I just hit a huge power spike and I'm ready to wreck face on people. Or when you finish your last Whisper and you know that those tanks are not going to, they're not going to live half as long as they did in that last team fight. Or like for a top laner, when you finish that Sunfire cape and you can be like a split pushing monster, and you're not going to take half the physical damage you were before. Just little things like that. When you finish these big ticket items that you piece together and they cost a lot of gold, that's a really fun feeling. But supports don't have that. Compare and contrast buying a Philosopher's Stone versus buying a Longsword, or even a Vamp Scepter. Compare and contrast buying, Mikkel's Crucible to buying a Bloodthirster. It just is a very different experience. And when you run back to lane, it doesn't have that same sort of impact. Well, why is that? Why does that have to be the case? Why can't supports have an opportunity to have cool itemization choices like the rest of us? And talk about, if you watch the LCS, a lot of the supports there go for an almost itemless type build where they focus a ton on consumables. So that even further drives home that in order to play support at the highest level, you actually need to sacrifice itemization. That right there is kind of just kicking the gut. Why would I want to do that when I could buy all these cool damage and AP items? Getting a Death Cap and a Void Staff and a Zonias and wrecking people and being really tricky. And why is it that supports don't get that? I've seen some of those LCS matches where these supports win the game with boots, Sightstone, and that's it. That's pretty much all that they have is boots and a Sightstone. I mean, that's just crazy. And I really don't think that is very interesting or fun to play as a support. It would be much more interesting or fun to have some sort of cool itemization choice. So I'd really be curious to hear your thoughts in the comment section below about what can Riot do in terms of items, in terms of gold, in terms of runes and masteries to improve support and make it more interesting, more fun, more desirable. Because I really do think that while I have granted before that support was probably always going to be a niche role, I fervently believe that it can be a more fun role, a more interesting role. And that community perception is just as much about what Riot puts into their game as designers as it is about what the community does with the tools that they are given. I really do think that Riot has the power to shape and change the perception of the community, and I think that responsibility is not something that should be taken lightly. They're the ones who make the game. They are the ones who make the champions. They're the ones who govern champion balance. And if they're going to have a role, obviously there's a reason why this role is popular and powerful. It's because it's needed. The support role is necessary. you've only got 3 lanes, you've only got 1 jungle. That leaves 1 more person on your team who's not going to be taking any gold. So they need to be powerful and effective without receiving consistent gold. And I really think that there are things that Riot can do to help change that. So anyways, I'm going to wrap things up here. And but I really want you guys to maybe do a Google search. Check out that forum post about what Riot had to say about the way they were going to change gold income for junglers and for supports. Changing the way that warding is done. Warding is typically seen, and here's an idea. What if instead of paying 75 gold to buy a ward, what if there was, what if you got gold? Just as just a total random thought, it's something I just thought of right now. What if when you placed your ward, if it gained vision of an opponent, what if you got ward? Or I'm sorry, what if you got gold for that? What if that ward paid you back because it spotted an opponent? So let's say you place down your jungler. Look at this warding right here. Leona's got these wards right here. What if you see Nunu coming through, and then what if Leona got 25 gold for that? That'd be really cool. And it would also reinforce. People CS because it's good, but also because it gives you gold. Like there's an incentive, there's a reward. What if there was a reward for placing a ward? What if there was, a little bonus for placing a ward that successfully sees an opponent? And I'm sure that this could be abused. You could just throw down lane wards and just tax it and get a ton of ward spam. I'm sure that there are ways that the idea is flawed, but the core concept there, this idea that you are making warding fun, making warding something that it feels powerful, feels strong, feels effective. Something that you are actually rewarded for. There's actually a benefit, not just, because map vision is such a passive benefit. Like you don't really feel the benefit of map vision. You don't really feel like, oh my gosh, I am really impacting this game because of all this awesome map vision we have. You don't really feel that in the same way that you feel like, holy cows, I'm 10-2. And I've crushed my lane opponent by 30 CS, and I've taken 2 of his towers. Those things, you feel like, wow, I am crushing my lane. But on a support, okay, I put down a bunch of wards, and I, buffed my AD carry a bunch, and so they didn't die. It just doesn't, you kind of have to manufacture the pride and the joy in that. It isn't as inherent as it is, with some of these other roles. So anyways, I should probably stop because I probably could come up with idea after idea. But the idea of this type of a commentary is really to just try and encourage you guys to think, if there is this, if you take me at step 1 and you agree, there is this problem in this game, and this is something that Riot can improve upon. Well, why don't we as the community step forward and try to come up with ideas for change? Riot is very good about reading forum posts. You see, if you watch on Reign of Gaming, they have a red tracker. If you've ever do a Google search for Reign of Gaming, and they have a red tracker where they will track all of the posts done in red, which indicates that it was done by a Riot staff member. Well, Riot is really good about following forums, and they have been very explicit about, they enjoy community feedback. They desire for the community to interact with them and to tell them, if you've ever seen a Riot post about champion balance, they often say something along the lines of, what is an epic moment for this champion, or when do you feel powerful, or when do you feel like you struggle? What sorts of things do you feel like your opponent can do against you to combat you? What about this champion's visual design do you like? What about their lore do you like? What about their personality do you like? What about the itemization that they need to be powerful? What sorts of items do you enjoy buying? When do you feel powerful? All of those things go into this conversation about champion balance. Well, those are things that the community is interacting with Riot about. Why can't we have that same sort of discussion about supporting and improving this role that is typically seen as the bane of the community? Nobody likes to play support. Why don't we change that? Why are we just simply allowing this to be when this is something that we could change for the better? So anyways, I'm going to stop ranting. This has probably gone on for too long. Let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts. I really enjoy the feedback and the discussion. I think that topics like this can only make the game better. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye. Oh, let's watch the end of this battle. I think I end up getting away. Sorry, friend. Rest in peace, Leona. Okay, I gotta go. See ya.